Thank you for attending the 2019 Board of Education meeting. We have roll call, please.
Mr. Botto.
Here.
Mrs. Anderson. Here. Mrs. Hurst. Mr. Miles.
Here.
Mrs. Wolf. Here.
We stand for the judge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Foundation.
Let me first start with sympathy to extend on behalf of the education district staff. Jessica Klingler and her family, the death of her mother recently. Tammy Butler, Annette Mathias, and Jalen Hilliard for the death of their father. And also Susan Monticelli for the death of her father recently. So send sympathies to them as well. Accommodations that we have, the Moonlaw Foundation, they have given $500 for Project Lead the Way. I want to commend also Susan Monticelli. She's up for and will receive the Middle School Counselor of the Year. She'll be invited to the Counselors Conference here and toward the end of the month. We want to extend an appreciation to Captain Brandon McRae. He came out and did a 3-day peace officers training how to respond to peace officers with our students as part of legislation now that we have to teach our children how to respond to these police. Also, the Claymont High School, they received the Purple Star Award for supporting military families. So there was a recognition last week that we will be getting a banner for in the future. And also the Claymont High School and the elementary for the PBIS awards are both received a bronze. And I believe Scott Eldridge came last year around November after he got the awards, and he has not reached out to me yet about making a return trip. But we want to extend their congratulations to them as well.
Anybody else have any recommendations? Administrative report, we received in our packet several years. It's on, do you have anything that now? No, I don't think so. Thank you. Jessica, Brian, Kelly, Mr. Ray, everybody shaking their head. Oh, okay. How about that?
I submit. I think these are my report.
Okay. Cindy, or Buckeye, or the under?
Foundation, the foundation reverse raffle is October 28th. If you haven't got your tickets, or you still want to get a ticket, let me know. I'd be happy to sell you one. Anybody, even out there in Flower Land, I'd be happy to sell it. So that's what's going on with them. Buckeye Career Center, nothing really new since our last meeting in regards. Their meeting is always after this one, and so I try to get ahead on the agenda, but still working on the Buckeye House. That's going well. Looking on some grants for some additional buildings that we want to put up. But other than that,
we had a transportation meeting.
We had a transportation meeting, so the committee, if you want to talk about that.
We had a transportation meeting a week ago. Basically, we discussed possibly double busing. We still have an aging population for our bus drivers, so it's going to be an ongoing, something we're going to have to eventually address. We're fortunate that right now we do have drivers, and Eric isn't having to sub quite as often, but we're going to look at double busing, extending our walking route, and we're going to look at what other school districts. I think he has a meeting this.
He and I had a meeting with the ESC on October 26th, and that will be with all the ESC regions to discuss basically how to recruit, how to get drivers through the system as far as getting their credentials quicker. The biggest thing is that Kim and I have attended the FOREST meeting, Coalition of Ohio Rural and Appalachian Schools, And there is a legislative committee that talks about, and then one of their goals for this year is transportation. You know, if I want to drive a bus, do I need to know every piece and part of the motor to be able to drive the bus? And that's currently how they're being tested. Versus what are the rules other than that people can see. So that's part of the ESCs to recruit people to want to go ahead and drive a bus. So we're not the only ones in this situation, at least in our region. And so I'm not sure about way up north or south of us and northeast, but if they're running information on the news about the bus driver shortage, it's not just here. So our committee is taking a look at what can we do for a shortfall in drivers. We've offered insurance as far as to get people to try to attract. That worked, and they resigned and went to another job. So is that not always going to keep people here for that purpose? So we will have more to report next board meeting.
But if anybody knows anybody that would be interested in a part-time job or assisting with bus drivers, there's a class coming up, what we say, December.
That's the local class. There are classes that are
Throughout the state.
Throughout the state.
The closest one, that's in Dover, I think it is.
It'll be at the ESC in New Philadelphia.
So, 5K class 10 to 1. So if there's anybody maybe who's retired or looking for a supplement. I mean, we need bus drivers.
That's the biggest thing. It's been a frustrating time just sitting and being on that meeting. You're beating your head against the wall trying to come up with some way. So, you know, the thoughts, concerns, send them our way. We're open to come up with something. It's just unfortunate. It's either going to expand the walking route or try to find you're trying to hire from the same pool of nobody. And just, so.
What's the double busing entail? What exactly is that?
Okay, so what would happen is that bus drivers would go out and pick up, they would start earlier and pick up high school and middle school first.
So we change our start times
And
then?
we started our start time would change for high school and middle school would be first so that we could accommodate athletics. And then littler kids would come in, then they would go back out and do it. Billy's been doing it
For quite a while.
quite a while.
Riverview has been doing this for quite a while. You know, they have drive enough that they can drive from Columbus to Fort Lauderdale, Florida and back every day. So that's how many routes and how far they drive at Riverview, but they do double routing. My concern is, you know, whether we still will have people enough to take athletics, because if we have the people who potentially leave, we're still hurting for other people. So there's no good way out of this until people are able to take these
We're
positions.
looking at needing soon, possibly at least three drivers because of retirement. And
Mhm.
we're very fortunate that in fact, one was at the volleyball game and I thanked him for, his longevity and, taking up a Saturday to do volleyball. So if you do see a bus driver, thank them. It's a job that we're really having. All schools are having at some time. Do we have any other?
We had a board policy committee that was back at the end of September, I believe. So I don't know if Mrs. Wolf or Mr. Foster want to touch base on any of that, or
There were some changes to several of the policies, the criminal records check, employment, key staff, school bus emergency evacuation procedure, transportation, procedure safety, artificial intelligence, promotion, placement, and retention, home education and home instruction, cash in school buildings, uniform federal grant guidance, procurement of federal grants and funds, disposal of property, gifts, grants, and donations, grievance procedure for employee and student, harassment and violence, racial ethic, national origin, disability, sex, religion, harassment, and discrimination policy for students and employees, grievance procedure, emergency management plan, student health charges, face coverings, and combination of policy coverings by employees. And those were all from
House Bill 33. Yeah. We do have a resolution.
except was there one that wasn't household?
We had, correct, two of them, facial coverings and then the lunch, food menu, saving price. But we do have a resolution on the agenda to replace, even though there's a lawsuit at this point in time to stop the Department of Education and Workforce to happen to keep Ohio Department of Education. Ohio Department of Education is referenced prevalently in our policy, but that will be replaced with a simple resolution saying that we'll replace any place where it says ODE, we'll replace it with Department of Education and Workforce.
On that criminal checks, then like when we have this building over here, done, everybody who is contracted, subcontracted, you'll have the background checks
That's
confirmed, or how does that work?
according to law. That's correct. How
The
I was,
application of the law.
well, I was at a meeting last week and this topic came up and they said apparently the legislature didn't need it to be that every contractor who comes in and does work, such as your HVAC person and for people to do remodels, like you were mentioning, they meant more for like outside contractors like physical therapists and occupational therapists. So they're in the process of changing or tweaking this, but the law says it's contracted. So, yeah. So when Beth and I met with at the pre-bid meeting, with the companies that were there said anybody who works on this has to have their fingerprint.
So it's changed.
But supposedly that wasn't the intent, but our physical therapists and our occupational therapists that we have and are working with our kids have their FBI and DCI checks. So I'm not sure why.
That's mandatory anyway.
Yeah.
What about the gardener, anybody that we hired for that each, that kind of stuff?
Well, currently, that would be the case. Anybody who comes in would have to have that, yeah.
Yeah, I think any of the bid contracts that we bid out, just the summer and the intermediate, that is included in the scope of work that they have to all be fingerprinted prior to. But the others, like just the in and out, an elevator repairman, somebody coming in, that's what we're using is it two, the check-in? Is it you? Checking, and that is doing a check to, it's not, but it's looking for any kind of criminal record or any kind of match or anything like that, because you guys are asking for license for them to come in. They'll get their badge, then turn it out, everything's okay.
Would this summer help? I mean, there's no students involved with summer help, so would it be just during school hour? I mean, I have to look at the law. I mean, it comes into the building, whether school's in session.
Yeah, because of the overlap we had in the end of the school year, and we weren't sure, they've been in and out even when school started fixing small things, we just had to include that with the big added expense when we have a lot of employees working.
I did offer that pre-bid meeting, anybody who got that we would offer your price. But a lower price in some other places, so you go to DSC and pay more.
Do you have any other administrative reports? Well, do you need that? Okay.
I'd like to thank the board for allowing us to host our Meet the Candidate Forum at the middle school. I'd like to thank Brian Watkins for staying open in his building, getting it prepped, along with the National Junior Honor Society. The kids did a great job helping set up, building questions from the audience, bringing them down to the table. And again, Chad Shoemaker for moderating the event, and also Mick Maple. And so I just wanted to let you know, although the auditorium wasn't packed, we counted about 40 adults. We did count the kids that were helping out. I was like, oh, at first I was like, oh, this wasn't a very good showing. But with Mick there, we did look online, and online live streaming, we had 42. And then we checked it again, and it had over 1,000 views. So hopefully that really made it available to all of the community, thanks to Mick live streaming it. So those who couldn't attend that night could hear about all of our candidates that are running. And then last week, we had our Jeans Day for Operation Warm. And I just wanted to thank all the buildings and also central office. We raised $505 for Operation Warm. And I got a thank you, so I just wanted to read that real quick. It says, thank you, Claymont. Dear Claymont, your gift means so much to a child in need. Operation Warm's motto, more than a coat, means more than just physical warmth. It also means emotional warmth, the confidence to socialize and succeed and hope for a brighter future. And then they say, thank you for your contribution to our mission and to the children in your community who will receive your support. And again, we did that with the Yorksville Fire Department. So I just wanted to let you know how much the district raised, and say our thank you to our district for donating to that cause. Thank you.
Any other reports? Just looking at you. Is there anybody else done?
Yeah.
That's funny doing there. There's one down. Yeah.
In this presentation, we'll talk about community eligibility provision, CEP, talk about Alton Clinic, Business Advisory Council, and then legislative. So, CEP, the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Food Nutrition has come out and made a ruling on September 26th that they have lowered the eligibility for CEP. It was 40%, and they have lowered it to 25%. And they said this would be effective as of October 26th. And I put it in big letters, but Ohio, it will not act on the change until next school year. Now, I just talked about contractors, and that's not what we meant. And we only meant for physical therapists and occupational therapists. So this could possibly change at this point in time. But as we stand tonight at 5:49, they are not moving on lowering the eligibility until next school year.
Because we would be eligible at 25%.
Yeah,
we would be eligible.
We were like, what, 30, 38?
Somewhere in And the biggest change in that is the eligibility was the Medicaid. So that it was just a direct serve from those who are getting direct assistance from the government, and now the rest added Medicaid with it. So that's partially what would help us to meet that threshold, plus then they've lowered the threshold as well.
So they're adding medical assistance, not just EBT cards.
Right.
Okay, so is there anything that we as a community and can do? Is it for to notify, since obviously if the U.S. Department of Agriculture has lowered it, but Ohio's not following that standard, is there anything we as a community or people can do to notify our representatives?
Is that legislation or is it?
Yeah, is there anything? I'm just thinking that our school district, we were teetering anyway.
Can I add something? Yeah. From what I've read also though, lowering the percentage is great to qualify. But you know how we've always gotten extra money through our economic disadvantage because basically 100% of our enrollment that is considered poverty. The only people that will be eligible for that calculation is your direct service. So if we go down to the 25%, including all the medical part stuff, that doesn't mean we're going to get as much money as we had before.
For the food program, you mean, or no?
No, we get funding through economic disadvantage,
Right.
and I will be finding out Lynn's pay, how that impacts us for this year. But, so if we're 35%, it goes off that 35%, even if it's down to 25%. Like you said, we're not going up to 100%. If we're at 25%, 100% is not going to be economic disadvantage. It's going to be a percentage of our.
So for that funding,
Yes, so we're going to have to really try to dive into that when we go to make that decision of
Well, back.
and weigh the differences.
So you have to weigh the numbers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is the juice worth the squeeze? It can cover with all the costs. How much? So, there have been districts that just like use 3 months only because they can't cover everything. So it's, like Kim's saying, you gotta make sure we have the numbers before we can make that commitment one way or another. And if we can say, yeah, we can swing with reimbursement to cover all 3 months for everybody, then that's something that we look at. If we go in reimbursement and we're still in the hole and not covering everybody, obviously that's not a good financial decision. You know, whenever we can't cover our own costs. So, but that is something that's still.
so they're not going to match it. I mean, they're not going to match it.
They're not.
So on the surface, it looks like it's a good thing, but
Yeah.
not necessarily. We'll have to run the numbers and see what that comes out to.
Good.
And then I said under House Bill 33, this is what's current. So those students who are eligible for free lunches eat free, but under House Bill 33, those who are reduced eat free. So I know that Andrea has let that be known, as far as, so free kids are free, and then obviously then reduced is free to House Bill 33. The Altman Clinic, as I was told at one point, it was slated for at the beginning of November. Last I've heard is that they're going to be open for students and staff only, and that will begin on the 20th of November, and they'll have hours between 7 a.m. and 4:30. I do have a meeting coming up here soon regarding the grant that they're applying, and us in Tusky Valley and Malvern are among that grant, and to hopefully expand into a 2,000 square foot clinic. That would allow public access, and it also restricts the access between students and the public. So that is something that's in the works. So I'll continue to keep you updated regarding that. But their goal is, and if they receive this grant, the turnaround is very quickly, and it would have to be spent by the beginning of the fall of 2024.
Do we think that, right now, I think that students and staff both, right, can do, we already have one here, right? Or that buildings to do telehealth or whatnot. Is it the idea that this clinic is going to kind of replace that? Or like, do we expect to see some kind of like a influx of people using that, students and staff, if we're already, I'm only asking because I know just last weekend my husband had he was sick and he got an appointment like the same day and they called a prescription. It was really slick, but I'm pretty sure Mr. Watkins isn't only leaving the middle school to go to the high school to go see someone. So
they're still going to keep telehealth open because right now they're still the grant cover the nurse that is through the EFC through the grant.
okay.
I've had mixed messages, I'll be honest, about whether they'll keep telehealth open or not. Once they move toward the clinic.
Right, that's why like this on the surface, it's really good too, but it's the same thing. Like if you have a teacher in the elementary or primary or, it's inevitable, right? This time of year, especially teachers, you come back to work and you're around all these kids you haven't been around for 3 months and now it already starts, the germs start catching up. And so that's why I was wondering if, what we have now is actually it's going to turn out to be a really good thing, at least for my family. So I was just kind of wondering what that impact would play out for, the staff, these principals, they have staff who may not feel well, and now are they gonna have to eventually just go to the high school to get treated type things?
I mean, I personally, and I'm putting my principal shoes back on, would be, I'd rather have to cover a class for, say, an hour to go to high school versus miss.
Oh, agree, totally agree.
So
Yeah.
I think that's.
The convenience, I think, of what they're doing now is just good.
Yeah, and I agree that it's good, but I also know that a number of people that were able to receive primary care positions from the telehealth, then having this access, it's given our kids more access to medical services than ever before. So that's the biggest benefit of it, is giving our kids that access. So the kids that, I say Mrs. Lloyd would know, the kids that are in class and then their nose is always dripping and they always have an infection. That's the type of kid who gets there and they never miss. And so they're the ones who.
They got to go germ buildup.
Right.
Right.
They're the ones who. One reason or another, if we're unable to get to a medical appointment, it's helped them in that, for that. So I'm not sure. It's still kind of up in the air whether telehealth is still going to continue or not, even if they have to have another grant. So if they don't have a grant, we have the equipment, but I don't know if they take the equipment again or just even.
I was just, I think I honestly think it's a good thing too. I was just curious how it's gonna play with what we currently have, or if it's gonna go away.
I'm thinking with the telehealth also, we have so many parents who either don't drive or don't have a vehicle. We've been able to serve a lot of kids through the telehealth program because they're not able to transport their child to, a doctor or another school. I mean, we've even had kids come on the wrong day and their parents were like, well, I don't have a car, can't come get them. And staff ended up driving them back home. But I know that's where telehealth has been very beneficial too, because maybe they're a one-car family and, somebody's already at work and but when they usually have cell phone. So that's been really beneficial.
So if they continue to move on with this, then we'll see whether they still have money to do telehealth, see if they still have that at the end of the year as well. The Business Advisory Council, the Business Advisory Council, the plan was submitted to the state, and that has to be done by end of September. It provides the goals for the initiatives for this year: provide member districts resources and training to increase skill attainment for students, provide member districts credentialing programs to increase skill attainment for students, and expand career exploration options for district members, and explore opportunities that would benefit all stakeholders to increase collaboration. We sent a team down to the STEM collaborative last 2 weeks ago. We sent a couple of our career tech teachers from middle school and high school and administrators went down and participated in that collaboration. And then I know that we have our next workforce collaborative is at the end of October. I know Ms. Khanna says she's already has that on her calendar as our career navigator. And we're trying to push more of our kids into the apprenticeship programs this year. So it fits right where we are with our school at this time for the initiative. So that's Business Advisory Council. And ensuring that it aligns with businesses and the labor market. And then there's a link that goes to the Business Advisory Council. So our plan is with the Educational Service Center, and that's all the schools that are with them as well. House Bill 33, I just want to have some highlights. They eliminated blizzard bags, but they're going to allow remote learning. So that's one thing allowed. I think last year we were wanting to look at remote learning, and then ODE said you can't use remote learning for calamity days, but now the legislators say you can. So that is an option we have here for this coming winter. Transportation, Students can't be dropped off 30 minutes before school or after school. It has to be picked up 30 minutes after school. That was a change that was in last year. But the biggest thing that I don't want to advertise, but I'll say it now, is that families can use it for non-public transportation. We currently transport students for St. Mary's and Tuscaloosa Central Catholic. But if I'm taking my voucher, and as you know, within the House Senate bill, that all vouchers go wherever you want to take them. So if I'm a parent and saying, yes, I find a community school that I'm going to go under the legislation, we have to transport. So our option is to, then deem it, we can't do that, and we pay that parent to take their kid to a community school. So that is something that hasn't hit us at the moment, other than transporting our kids that go to St. Mary's and TCC. So, and then seizure plans, I know our nurses have already met with their staff and the principals, and anybody who works with a student who has epilepsy that has seizures, they have to be up on that plan and have a copy of that plan. Another thing is provide parents with achievement test results. Not that we didn't do that, but there's a deadline. We have to provide that by June 30th of each year. And I will be talking with the administrative team and see if there's because you can use a secured portal. And I want to talk about what secured portal we do have versus doing a mailing. So speaking out loud, my thought is that parents have access to progress book, and that could be an avenue for them to have access to their achievement tests. Third grade guarantee. Guarantee has increased every year since it came into its inception 10, 15 years ago. So they said the guarantee was going to, and this is where it was going to be, and it took that time to get to that plateau. And some districts have held kids back over the guarantee over the years. Now the guarantee is that if we, as a parent, I can meet with the team, with the reading specialist and the principal, and discuss whether my child needs to be moving on or not. What if the child is moved on? Then they have a reading improvement monitoring plan, and they have to have a reading improvement monitoring plan until they reach that grade level. So if I move on from third to fourth, then I have to have a plan. It has to be monitored. And if I don't get that grade level in fourth, and I go to fifth, same deal. So we could have reading improvement monitoring plans all the way up through graduation because it has to be at grade level for those to be reading. So that's part of the guarantee as well. And then also student records, you have to send them out within 5 days unless the student owes $2,500 to the district before. We do our best to try to eliminate that large of a debt, and if we possibly can't collect. But that's one thing the only thing that we really have to hold over them is that they won't receive their diploma and won't walk across the stage. So we try to catch them before that, and our principals do the best they can to get those supply fees turned in prior to graduation. So, House Bill 558, access to overdose reversal drug. Used to be known as Narcan. Now there are other drugs available that you can apply to a student. So we'll be looking into apply to someone who is in an overdose situation. We will be looking into the access for that and where we keep those. If there is a situation, we can have that on hand. So that is something that's coming through there. House Bill 554, until military students can take CCP courses. Mom or dad in the military get moved to different bases. They can still stay taking CCP classes even though that they have moved. So that's something, and we will be the district in charge of that payment. A couple other House bills. House Bill 187 is the reappraisal. So there's Senate Bill 153. Kim and I talked about this one going back and forth, is that one of them is that they're going to take a reappraisal. Every school district has to stay at 20 mil floor, so you have to collect 20 mils of levy and for each school district. If you add the 20 mil levy, then you get that state aid. If you're above the 20 mil levy or 20 mil floor, you get less state aid. So it depends upon where you are with the 20 mil floor. They're looking at applying the provisions for tax years on an average. It's from 23, 24, and 25 to in the future to say what was your average appraisal and how much money did you get? So and then on 187, then right now it would be the county auditor would have the final authority to say what we would get as a county. So the county auditor in Carroll County would have the same thing. So don't people talk and say, well, our county auditor raised it 2% or 5%, and ours didn't do anything with it. So that's going to raise some eyebrows there. And then Senate Bill 153 contains similar provisions within it. Another one, House Bill is next, would be, here's the Auditors Association. They determined that the 20 mil floor would be adjusted, that no school has received less money than what they had received previously. It used to be they're looking at a 3% increase, or 20% increase, and then they said no school would receive more than 5% increase. And how we would pay for this would be the ARP fund and rainy day funds, so that's fine. But the ARP funds are being phased out and used. Rainy day funds will eventually, if you put this into play, it would hurt the rainy day fund. And then there's also tax reductions for homeowners if they would have such increase, a certain increase beyond what they 5%. So, and then also they talked about 263, which freeze taxes for homeowners if you're 70 or older, make less than $70,000, live in your home for 10 years, and have a home value of less than $1 million. So it was the Homestead Act that was that if you were at 65 and older, that you did not have to pay property tax. So this is the legislature's way of making sure that something that this would be into law. But they do say that they reimburse schools for the lost revenue, which we do currently as well if people take the Homestead Act. The Homestead exemption, I should say. So that might be it.
Yep.
So there's a lot going on in legislation at this time. So it takes 5 years of work and how it impacts us.
So we're 3 months in now of fiscal year 2024. Our revenues are slightly higher at 28.3%. 3 months would equal 25% of our forecast as is. Fiscal year 24, the revenues up 3.16 over fiscal year 23, and some of that accounts for the interest that we got in the 3 months of over $110,000. Most of that comes from our Star Ohio, so that's basically where all of our foundation money goes into. So when we were collecting property taxes, like I was able to leave our state payments in there, we were collecting over 5%. So at this time last year, we were only at about $40,000 in interest. So that's a nice. And then expenses, we're sitting at 20.69%. 87.7% of those for salaries and benefits for this month. Last year, we had a 3-month pay in July. This year, it'll be in December, so we'll see a catch up here. Total revenues for the fiscal year is a little over $6.4 million, with total expenses at almost 4.7. We did have a deficit spend of over $107,000 for September, but as a fiscal year, we're still at a surplus of 1.7 with a true days cash of over 100. SR2 is spent. Yay! The company finally billed us for the partial that we're for the roof over across the street. So we made that payment, so that balance is zero. So I'll be filing the final expenditure reports in SR2. And SR3 We had, 11,925 in supplies for reading curriculums for the month of September. Building entrances had the most of the capital outlays of that 352,000. So we still have outstanding purchases of, over 289,000, but we do have a balance that's a $422,000. On the agenda tonight, we looking to approve the office renovation for the intermediate, and so that will come out of this money. Everything comes in under budget, then we'll need to decide on the rest of that money gets spent by the end of September 30th next year is when we have to have it all. So state and federal programs gives you the rundown of what I found for the month of September. Actually, I haven't filed yet because if you go to the next screen, I'm still waiting on my consolidated grant application to be approved that we submitted in July. So I sent another kind of nasty email today, like I'm to the point now, like you have to expect that we're 3 months in. So, you know, we're looking at salaries and wages and benefits now that we're paying on like Title I and ECE grants, and I need this money. So we had $609,000 in just September alone, and then I've still got backups of 151 and 28,000 for July and August. So I'm hoping my person can get that pushed through this month so I can get all of this back.
Interject. Last week, Governor DeWine spoke. I attended. He said, you know, he recognized that there's a lawsuit to hold the Ohio Department of Education from being eliminated in the Department of Education workforce to do. But he did say that the money is there and it'll still flow. But it's still flow, it needs to flow.
Yeah, it needs to flow.
And he was saying that everybody's there, they're all working, so the interim superintendent is now over with as interim of the director for the due. But he said it's all there, but
I know we got assigned a new consultant, I think it was in August, but she put her side through and it got peer reviewed, but it's sitting at the highest level to get finally approved, so I don't know.
I'm not sure either, but I mean, I don't know if the lawsuit has anything to do with it.
I don't think, but I don't know if it's just turnover. She had said that they're approved in the order they come. Well, ours was in like July 2nd or whatever. I mean, no, it had to be before July because it had to be. But then they returned it to us because they didn't have our Title V posted until like July 20th. So they're like, so I reached out to them and I said, you know, are you going to end up returning this to me anyways? Because that's my only part not completed now, but it wasn't even a subject. You know, she's like, well, yeah, it will get returned to you. So do you want me to just return it to you? Well, then that pushed it back on us again. So by the time we got it back in again, so we take them in the order they received. So fund balances as at end of September. So we're sitting at almost $9.6 million in all of them. And in your packet, you do have several of the student activity budgets. We tried to get these in because there's a deadline. It's supposed to be September 30th. You know, we're still missing a couple. Tracy sent out a reminder email, but I probably put in that and lay it on your desk. But I will probably have another stack for you.
For administrative report, we're going to board discussion. Okay, I make a corrections to the agenda. Anything to be pulled? Then you can continue, right?
Need a motion and a second to approve the financial statements of September, the payment of bills for September, the minutes from the special board meeting of August 27th, and the regular board meeting of September 11th. the student activity budget that were presented to you in your packets. The renewal of the SC strategic solution contract for fiscal software for requisitions, invoice, check printing. That's from November 1st to October 31st. And there were 3 change orders in there from the office remodels.
Make a motion to approve the treasurer's reports and recommendations.
Mrs. Hogan?
Yes.
Mrs. Grandison? Yeah. Mr. Cottrell?
Yes.
Mr. Miles?
Yes.
And Mrs. Wood?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Motion and a second for the following item. You plan as presented in front of you. The administrative team has taken some action steps. So under cultural media communication, just want to make a note, Mr. Wright and I were out at WBTC today with one of the conversation corners. So we schedule every other month. So our next time we go will be in December, and Ms. Pond gets to go with me. We're going to talk about shared Christmas and whatever's happening at high school at that point in time. That's one way that we are trying to obtain and reach that goal for communication.
Is that a live broadcast?
It is live. Yeah.
Yeah, we should have known that, so we could have tuned in.
So when is that again?
8:30 in the morning, so it'll be the second Monday of December.
And then, my next question. So then that'll be in February, it's every other month?
Yeah, it'll be February, then March. I know that this is focus going to be in March, talking for April, regarding kindergarten screening. So that'll get news out there to help push that. And then, so I can't, each administrator took the time to go to talk out with Brad Shoup and get the good happenings within our building. So it was fun this morning, wasn't it, Mr. Wright? Angela Grewell had a year 2 mentor for Bonanno this year. Through calling staff to pay $24 an hour for this week of curriculum development up to 18 meetings as listed. We have some resignations from Denise Peterson as preferred sub-custodian and Carol Bates. Carol's is effective the 27th of October. We'd like to approve the hiring of Alana Contini as permanent sub for custodian, $50 an hour for this school year. Also, we have 2 people who are like in the after-school programming. Ian Miser at high school and Gene Lesek at the middle school. They will offer some after-school programming. Ian's is going to be on for robotics, and Jane's is going to be on for program for her dog handling, the therapeutic dog at school. So that'll begin on the 6th of November. Also, we have tuition reimbursement. I'm not going to read through the list of those for tuition reimbursement. They are listed. We have a bid for the intermediate office from Benchmark Construction. That's $185,800. We'd like to set a contingency amount from the intermediate of remodel of $15,000 and also grant the superintendent permission to approve any change order that's less than $3,000 per current on an office remodel at the intermediate. As I talked in my presentation, item K, the resolution is whereas the replacing the Ohio Department of Education with the Department of Education workforce. So where we'll strike ODE and replace it with do. That is item K. Then item I, we have board policies that Mrs. Wolf went through to approve. We will remove a policy for 9.43, and that'll be for face coverings and masks. And then we do have some substitutes that we have, and they're projected to be able to use.
How many, the is for the benchmark construction and the contingency that the change orders falls under contingency, right? So 3,000 up to 15,000, and then anything above that, we would have to talk about. Again. I make a motion to approve the superintendent's recommendations.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Hogan.
Yeah.
Mr. Miles.
Yes.
Mr. Cottrell.
Yes.
Mr. Grandison.
Yeah.
Mrs. Moore.
New business. We received our grievance from the CEA this evening at about 2:30. So we weren't able to get everything scheduled. So we'll have to request a special board meeting for that, and it has to be heard before the 23rd, I believe. So if they're scheduled to be Tuesday the 20th. 17th, I'm sorry. To be October 17th. We'll have to have a special board meeting to hear the grievance.
5:30.
5:30, okay. Any other new business? Mary, do you have anything to add?
No.
Pretty quiet time, okay. We need to vote on the. Okay, well,
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it. I want to thank everybody for coming, and we'll adjourn our next meeting, our public state for special board meeting will be October 17th at 5:30. Our next regular meeting will be exactly morning. I'm sure everybody gets out and goes if you don't come to the meeting. That'll be November, the two board members will be leaving that next year. Get out and go to your record. Thank you.